Dan, thanks for sitting down with me today. I appreciate your time.
Thanks very much for having me.
Dan, we're here in Calgary at the 2017 CSTA November meetings, and we just had a great morning session. Seems like everything is going pretty fantastic. And I want to check in with you. You're the man at the helm now. What do you see as your number one priority, maybe at this meeting and for the next year?
Yeah, so I think we spent the whole morning talking about seed synergy, so I think that's clearly the biggest thing that we need to work on and drive towards. And we made, I think, member engagement. That was awesome this morning. Warren Wilson, his team, and I think all the CSTA members and the other people involved in seed synergy. Everybody came ready to have a conversation. It wasn't, it was great, right? So everybody was prepared. So I think that's the number one thing over the next period through my presidency that ends in July. So right. Seed synergy, continued dialogue and communication with all the members, and then expanding that into different value chains, which I think is built into the plan. So that's the number one. But yeah, like you said, things are going awesome. I mean, really great dialogue today. And you know, the green papers set out really good, but it's not how it's gonna end. And it was a really good base to start the conversation today. So that's the big priority.
Excellent. I think we also heard loud and clear that one of the things that everyone is most impressed with is that this is a unified voice. That this isn't CSTA doing all the work and all the thinking and all the pieces. This is 6 organizations coming together. Can you speak a little bit to that collaborative, cohesive approach?
Yeah, I think that's what's been fun, I think, to see as well, because 6 organizations, 6 different opinions, 6 different backgrounds of where they're coming from. But I think what's been great, and I think it speaks to the boards and the executive directors, the direction that they've set and the importance that it's been, is like this is a priority for everybody. Right. The government set out that they want information, they want us to see, to work together. And it's, as much as it feels like it's a long time, it's a short time, right? To achieve a lot. I think really what we've seen is people understand the urgency, and there's not time for agendas. Right. And I think also that speaks to the executive directors. Not a lot of agendas there. We're an ag. Everybody's got to work together. Absolutely. And I think you really see that collaboration and understanding that collectively, us together, being united, will achieve a lot more than infighting. And it's been a great process. Not everybody's 100% aligned, and that's, you know, we understand that's not going to happen. Right. But back to the communication, like we saw this morning, every time you have a process, then there's a really good process where you can have the dialogue and have the conversation, and you have the time to write some stuff down and then evolve. It's good. Absolutely. And I think that's you know, that united voice, I think, is, and coming together under seed synergy, I think is good. So
phase 1 is now done of the Seed Synergy Collaboration Project. Phase 1 is completed with this exercise now. What do you see as the core element that needs to come together for this next phase, for this next work that needs done, so that we're ready to have a position come July?
Detail, right? So it's more detail and that next layer of detail. So when we were together in July, people said, theory is good, don't have any idea what the detail looks like. Right. Green papers built out more detail. Through CSJ had their similar process, all the different we had ours, CSTA this morning. We'll continue to get more feedback and just build the detail of where we need to do. And I think the plan that's been built in the plan early in 2018 is to get broader industry engagement and understanding of how it means outside our sector for grain trade, right. Grower groups, things like that, involve them in the discussion, I think is good. I think there's probably some opportunity also to link in throughout this process the industry expertise, right? So the executive directors and the boards have been holding a lot of that information and doing a lot of the work, I should say, to get it to this point. And today, really, a lot more industry leaders saying, hey, great work, how can I help? Right. So when you've got really smart people from across the different places that have been through leadership spots stepping up and say, hey, this is great, but how can I also engage more than what I am today? Right. That's, speaks to the collaboration and communication. It's a good spot, and I think it's something that I think that is really positive about agriculture overall is people's willingness to step up and engage, especially when it's framed up and there's a process. And I think that's, having the ability to bring in facilitators such as Ingersoll and Warren Wilson to help us move through so that there is a process versus Canada plodding along.
Right.
Having that process and an end goal of when we want to be done, I think it's good. And I think that helps give people confidence to say, hey, that's something I want to be engaged in, right, outside of the work that our boards and the executive directors are doing today. So I think that's important.
It is very important. And I think we heard that today in the session that the group saw that as important. Yeah. Right. Yeah. The next thing I just wanted to ask you about is you've got a pretty new team you're working with. And as the as the president of the organization, it can be a bit daunting to think that you're bringing on an entirely new team. But I think that's going pretty well. Can you tell me a little bit about how that's going?
It's fun, right? I think it's certainly when I was starting my new role, that was one of the things that I talked about when I first started, when Dave Carey was moving in. So we have, CSTA has a small staff, 4 people, that 3 of the 4, so 75% are less than 6 months into their role. Right. 2 of them new to the organization, and but man, they are getting stuff done. They're fun to work with. They make my job as president easier, help the staff so much. Lots of great comments about just doing things different, right? So I think that's, as my role as president, it's not to get in their way, it's to empower. Nice. And so we really try to, and the board is really supportive of that as well. And really, as I talk to the staff, it's like, if you have an idea that's good, it's a good idea. Right. Just because we've done things and you've got something, hey, we could change, then let's, we can do lots of things different. And I think when you empower people to do things and own it, it inspires them. And you see all the great work, Better Seed, Better Life, the website updates, linking into the videos. And I think to the staff's credit as well, as they understand that they're small, and so and our budget is not a huge budget, so right. CSTA gets a lot of work done on a relatively small budget compared to other associations. And there's lots of good work that's done in the industry, so their openness to say, hey, we don't have to create everything. ASTA is a great partner of ours. We work with them. Our staff, Dave, with Andy Levine, has got a great connection, and ASTA said, hey, we can help you with some things, and we can share some of the resources that we have, and you can Canadianize them. And to our staff's credit, instead of saying, hey, no, we would like to invent our own so that we can do it, they said, hey, we can take something, Canadianize it, and make our association better. And they're about the results, not about who's getting credit and how it's all working. The team's working great. And so for where I sit as president, it's been fun to watch. It's been fun, and it's fun to watch people develop and evolve. And all of them have done that. And Kristen, who hasn't moved into a new role, you can just see she does an awesome job too. The convention planning and everything that she does an amazing job. And I think that seeing the other team members, she just when you think she can't get better, it just looks like it ratchets it up a little bit. So yeah, for me as president, with a lot of new people moving into new roles, it could have been a challenge, but really they're doing an amazing job, and I'm lucky to be able to have a great staff of support.
Fantastic, well said. This idea of volunteering your time, of playing a role at a very critical time within an organization, I'm wondering, what would you tell our audience that is right now perhaps sitting on the sidelines, unsure about how to engage and unsure about how to get involved in pushing and helping to guide the industry forward, and CSTA being one of those options? What would your advice be, or what are your thoughts about that? You've taken the plunge, and what would your advice be to some other folks?
Yeah, I've always liked to be involved in volunteering, so I volunteered in lots of different organizations. And so a number of years ago, when I was asked if I would like to volunteer to be on the board, was something that was in a different world that I haven't been in. Like, you have your day job, but what's great about being on the board of CSTA is that you learn a lot more things outside of your normal day job. The people we've talked about how great the staff are. The board is equally as great, and I think through the committees are great. And I think overall, I think the strength from a CSTA standpoint, and which is different than you see in some other organizations, is that we rarely get caught up in the priorities of our day jobs and our day companies, and the organization focuses on what does the industry need to do. I don't know whether that's a Canadian thing, I don't know whether it's an association thing, but it's certainly been an ongoing cultural thing from CSTA, that the association comes first, and Canada's a small area, you never know where you're going to be next, and so working on behalf of the association, it's rewarding, and you don't get into a lot of, there's no infighting, it's really focused on that. So yeah, I think anybody that's looking to step up and would be nervous about it, and I had a couple conversations with people today about committee work and understanding how much, really from CSTA there's lots of opportunity to engage at different levels. So if you can commit not a lot of time, but you've got some opinions, we'd love to share with you and say, hey, here's some time that I have, and we can absolutely make use of that time. If somebody wants to be super involved and's got more time, or would like something they're really, really passionate about, we would welcome that as well. So really, I think for me, the association is set up really well, works well together, and it's really welcoming to some new ideas, and don't get scared off by thinking that it's going to take so much time, because we can find a level for everybody.
Speaking of passion projects, I think one that has come across in your presidency is diversity in agriculture. Can you talk a little bit about why that is a passion project for you, and maybe how your fingerprints are on some of the pieces with CSTA?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, it is for sure. As I was thinking about it, and as I moved into my presidency, it wasn't something that I actually thought too much about. Until I started to get closer, and people are asking, what are your priorities going to be? And then so you start to you reflect and give it some thought. And in my day job with Monsanto, we have a lot of diversity. We spend a lot of time talking about it and implementing some things, and I work with a really diverse group of people, and we have some fantastic conversations because that I think is brought on because of that. But also around, I think, women in agriculture, starts with my family. So my parents, we owned a farm equipment dealership back in the 70s, and I can remember my mom saying in like 1980, I'm going to a management trainee thing, and they said I can't go because I'm a female, but she owned 50% of the business. And my dad had his expertise, and she did a lot of the operational side and the bookkeeping, and they were equal partners. And somebody said, you can't go to it, and she said, well, I'm coming. And so she showed up with a tie on so she could possibly fit in.
Perfect.
So I think some of that, and I have 3 sisters, I have a daughter, and just looking at, as I started to reflect on it, looking at the makeup of some different boards, just say, you know what, there's not we don't have enough women involved, and did some more research and talking, and we did training of unconscious bias through Monsanto, and that was very helpful to understand that, even though I think that I grew up in this family that had a great great mother that was active. So after she was a partner in the farm equipment dealership with my dad, she owned 2 restaurants, and she was, her restaurant was the first smoke-free restaurant in Kent County. So very innovative.
Nice.
And so as much as I thought that I really wouldn't have a bias going through the unconscious bias training, I'm like, I still do. Right, and it's not, and I think it was understanding that everybody has a bias, and that's okay. You have a bias because you're a human.
Right.
You don't have a bias because you're bad.
Right.
And so understanding that and sharing it, I think that was something that I thought was very important to increase and have the conversation. I think we see lots of it, and there's lots of great work that's being done with women in ag, and lots of great work. I don't think CSTA has to develop a lot of new tools, because I think there are a lot of great tools, but I do think that it's on leaders to step up and just call it out and say we need to talk about it and we need to engage people. And to me, when you're looking across all the different areas, that there is a lot of research that confirms the more diverse background that you have, it helps with your conversation. So if it's a group we have 16 people on our board, if it's 16 people that are exactly the same, probably going to do exactly the same.
Exactly.
Because we don't have that. So I think it's diversity, and as I said in my opening comments, it's diversity in age and ethnicity and gender. It's kind of everything that I think we can do better at.
Right.
And I think the one thing that we look around, we have women and just engaging and facilitating some conversation. So we'll start with that tomorrow with Women in Ag. Continue and build, and it's a step. And I think it is important to have a venue for women to have a safe place to talk about things that concern them, and also build confidence and build from the great leaders, because we have some great leaders. For sure. Dorothy Morrell was president of CSTA, Ellen Sperry, Aaron Armstrong. I mean, we have a lot of great leaders, female leaders in agriculture, and specifically in our industry, that we just need to empower and do more, and we need to ask, and I brought that up in my conversation this morning. We need to make sure that we ask and help them understand their value, because there's great value.
I think the thing that has struck me about your comments about diversity is that it's not so much about the numbers and the fact that, we've got to have these balanced numbers. We do have to have balanced numbers, but it's not about the balanced numbers. It's about the fact that it makes us better when we have that diversity. And that strikes me as a slightly different angle on this conversation that you've been able to bring to the dialogue. And I think it's a powerful one. It's an empowering one if I'm on, or if I'm in that mix, and it's an educational one if I'm from the old boys club that isn't quite sure about how to tackle that. So I guess what I'm saying is kudos to you for just tweaking the conversation a little bit so that it can fit into more of our conversations along the way. I think it's important
to frame it that way about, so I think if you get into numbers and all those other things, then people, is it the right person? Right. I really believe that there's barriers, and so if we can remove the barriers and get more diverse people, then it can help us, and it's all about being better. So you look at all the different industries, we have so much happening in our industry. We need to be we need to bring our best. Right. And I think the challenge from the old boys club, that's how I got to where I am today, right? And so it's where probably why I was asked, I don't know, right. But probably, right. Is that as we're doing this, as to make our industry better, is to have some of our leaders say, you know what, let's put this person up to help the diversity. I kind of like to move along and be in a spot, but the stronger and the more leadership spot might be to promote somebody to help that. And to, you're not stepping aside because you're actually becoming, in my mind, a better leader by helping build somebody. So I think really stepping back on what's in it for the individuals and think about what's in it for everything and making our industry better. Right. Which is, that's the goal. It's not about making an individual, it's about making the industry.
Well said, well said. So other than being the president of CSTA, you have this small little task of working for a company, going through a whole pile of changes and a lot of great stuff. Can you give me just the Coles Notes version? How are things going over at Monsanto?
Yeah, so my day job, I'm the portfolio lead for corn and soybeans with Monsanto for Canada. And really there's lots of stuff happening, but I have a day job to do, just kind of like CSTA. You stay focused on what you can control and where you need to be, and not a lot of worry about what happens when it's all over. I'm a huge believer on you work hard and you're going to land in a great spot. Really excited about what's going on within our company. Excited about the opportunity that the merger or acquisition will bring. I think it makes a lot of sense, going to add value when, like we talked about this morning, thinking about our customers in the future. It's about how we provide value to the customers. So really I'm excited about where we are today, about the opportunity of how we can continue to add value and add innovation. And so that's exciting.
And the fact that corn and soybeans is on a rapid tear across Western Canada, that also helps.
That's exciting. That's part of my day job as well, is helping to build the strategy for expansion of corn and soybeans across Western Canada. And again, back to the value. Growers across Western Canada said, hey, we want to be more profitable. We want to add more crops, sustainability, add more crops into the rotation that are profitable, because there's tight rotations in some areas that have increased disease pressure. And if we can add more crops that are profitable for growers, I think it can be a real benefit for them. But we have to do it well. I really believe that it's our job as developers to develop the products and have them tested and proven for the local area, and not have the grower have to experiment and have a lot of cost and risk. Right. It's really the companies that believe that there's an opportunity to do the work, do it locally, and be able to share with the growers and say, here's how you can grow this crop and be profitable. Right. We can't afford to sell our customers something that we don't have figured out already. Right. And it's hard. From Western Canada, growers are aggressive, and they're willing to take some risk and try some new things, which is amazing. And I think it's great to be able to be in that environment when you can see somebody say, hey, we would be willing to take a shot at doing this. But also we want to focus on the long term. So right. Willing to take a shot at something for a year and then it not work and say, I'm never doing that again. It's a long-term approach of how we look at corn and soybeans. So.
Absolutely, awesome. Well, I can tell you personally from me, thanks for all the hard work you're doing for the industry. Good luck with the rest of the term through July. I know there's lots on your plate, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks very much. It was great sitting down with you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.